Hello and welcome to Anden's channel, my channel, and also welcome to Anden's Opinion Corner. If you guys don't know what Anden's Opinion Corner is, it's where I take your comments that you've sent to me that has a topic or a subject, literally anything that you want me to share my opinion on, and then I will do so. I'm not going to be able to see Star Wars The Last Jedi until I'm back in Sweden on like the 25th. I'll see the movie, but since I rewatched the Star Wars prequels not that long ago in like the end of November, they're still fresh in my mind. So I want to talk some Star Wars stuff, so why not talk about how I don't think the prequels are very good movies, you know? Fun times all around. But before I dose you all with criticism and negativity, I do actually have some positive things to say about the prequel trilogy. While I have several issues with the prequels, I will say that this trilogy, the actual story that's spanning all these three movies, isn't bad at all. It's actually a very good and interesting story of Palpatine, basically infiltrating everything, taking control over the Senate, having this control over the Republic while having control over the Separatists, and then fabricating this whole fake, war between the Republic's clone army and then the Separatist droid army. He's doing all of that, scheming, puppeteering, everything. And just me talking about what the story of the prequels are, I mean, it makes me excited to see a movie about that. But I feel like, unfortunately, the way the story was told in the prequels is where most of my issues are. It's a good story, Palpatine trying to ally and befriend Anakin, who is this doubting young Jedi who feels like the Jedi Order, the peacekeepers that they are, how much they've changed, because now they're not peacekeepers anymore. And that's a point I would have wanted them to bring up more rather than just in boring dialogue about how the Jedi were peacekeepers and now how they changed, because the Jedis are like generals now. They're all like army, soldiers basically, and that's not what the Jedi Order was supposed to be. Anakin in episode 3 even says, when Mace Windu is supposed to kill Palpatine, he's just like, no, this isn't the Jedi way. Obviously he still has the whole Padme thing. He doesn't want Palpatine to die because, he can save Padme from death. But I agree with Anakin when Anakin says, this isn't the Jedi way. You can't kill him. You have to keep him alive. So while the story of the prequels is there, and you can definitely get more into it by reading the canon books and then also watching the fucking fantastic Star Wars The Clone Wars show. Oh, that show is just so good. But I feel like the way the story was portrayed in these movies isn't that good. So I want to talk a bit about these movies one by one, but first I just want to talk generally my issues with this trilogy. And surprisingly, it's actually not that much with the actors or the visual effects. I always see these two being the main thing that people are just oh, what the fuck. I can only be so upset about the Star Wars prequels, really, because without George Lucas progression of digital visual effects, I probably wouldn't be in Germany working with visual effects. Now, my main issues with these films are the actual production, the actual film production. The directing, it's the writing, and then it's the editing. Those are my three main issues with these movies. As I've said, the story that Lucas has come up with for this trilogy is actually good. I just feel like Lucas probably should have been more behind the scenes. He should have been the visionary, making sure that his vision is still what the movies are, but maybe having someone else taking a look at the script, maybe having someone else writing the love dialogue, maybe having a new person direct each episode like they did with the original trilogy to bring in more life to these movies, because you need a second opinion. And we all hear the rumors and the stories about how Lucas had complete control over these movies, and I feel like that's where the prequels failed the most. Filmmaking is such a collaborative process, and you need second opinions, and maybe one or even three directors who are more engaged than you are. Because I've seen the behind the scenes of all these prequel movies. I've seen the way George Lucas directs.
I manage action and cut and faster and more intense. Mostly I sit there looking miserable and quiet.
It doesn't feel like he's very engaged. That's where you get the whole faster, more intense thing. A different director, at least someone who can look over the scripts and actually being able to say no to Lucas. No, we can't do that, we can't do that, we have to change this and that. You can't have a dialogue from Anakin that's I'm haunted by the kiss you never should have given me. And then the third and main thing that I feel really plagues all these movies, episode 2 and 3 especially, is the editing. Mainly the pacing and story progression. And all of that is infamous. I mean, you even hear it, honest trailers making jokes about it, about people just sitting and talking, standing and talking, sitting and standing and talking. In episode 3, you have the muddy space battle that everybody loves so much. I personally, when I watched it again now, I was just who's fighting who? Where is everybody? There's too much happening on screen. You can't really like catch up. Okay, there's Anakin. Okay, I know these people. I'm supposed to root for these. What the fuck is happening over here? Like, but after all of that, when Anakin and Obi-Wan saves Palpatine from Count Dooku, which is another great like puppeteering from Palpatine, tell me what happens after that. Yoda travels to Kashyyyk and Obi-Wan travels to battle Grievous, but those things happen like 30 minutes after Obi-Wan and Anakin have saved Palpatine. In those 30 minutes, it's just talking and boring talking. Actually, it's wrong for me to say it's boring talking. You know, it's all heavy plot material that they're talking about. It's very important to listen to what they're saying, otherwise you will have no idea why Yoda is going to Kashyyyk. The problem is the way that they're shooting the scenes, the way that the actors are just sitting emotionless and talking about it. It's just such a huge 30-minute exposition dump that you, like, I as a kid, I never really understood, you know, the story here of the prequels. It's only now because I actually sit and listen. When I was a kid, I was just like, oh, Yoda's in Kashyyyk, whoa, cool, Chewbacca, whoa. So those are personally my 3 main issues with the prequels: the writing, the directing, and the editing. Now I'm gonna go into a bit more detail about each movies, and you'll be surprised that I actually have positive things to say. Not everything is overtly negative. For instance, Phantom Menace is not as bad as I remember. When I was 15 watching this movie, I was just like, this is fucking Christ, like this Naboo sequence, it just takes forever, but in reality it doesn't. The whole Naboo sequence when Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan is rescuing Queen Amidala, it actually goes by fairly quickly. Like, for all the pacing issues that I think the prequel movies have, actually Phantom Menace has the least amount of that problem. It actually moves fairly quickly. My main issue with Phantom Menace is, of course, you know, Jar Jar Binks. I feel like if they could of course kept him in the movie, but maybe if they toned him down like 10 or 20%, you know, something like that, probably a lot of people would have hated this movie, you know, the least. I mean, actually, it's not the worst prequel movie. Episode 2 is the worst prequel movie. This is very close tied to Episode 3 now that I've rewatched them. The whole pod racing sequence is very good. Darth Maul is very threatening, very good. Obviously, I like Darth Maul a lot more now because of Clone Wars and Rebels. You know, he's a very fairly one-note character in The Phantom Menace. Speaking of George Lucas directing, you see the performances that these adult actors give. Liam Neeson, Ewan McGregor, and all of these actors, they are all very wooden in this prequel trilogy. And then you have this kid who's never been in a movie like this before. This is all new to him. He is a kid, and his life was completely ruined by Star Wars fans because of how bad he was. Well, what do you think? If the adult actors who's been in several things are that wooden in these movies, how do you think a child actor is going to be? After having rewatched them, I've such respect for this poor kid, and he's not even that bad. The only bad things about Kid Anakin is his dialogue, and guess what? The child didn't write that bad dialogue. It was Lucas. But yeah, Phantom Menace not as bad as I remember. Let's move on to the worst of the prequels. Episode 2 was the first of the Once Upon a Time when everything is just complete blue and green screen, and oh my god, is it noticeable? Like, it's so, I mean, I get what Lucas was going for, you know, he wanted to have this grand, epic, like giant open areas in the Jedi Temple, but it just doesn't look that good. I mean, the opening sequence with Queen Amidala, her decoy dying and everything, it's just like, yikes. The worst pacing issues. I think it has the worst dialogue of the prequels, and it also has the worst story progression. I dislike that we never got to see anything of Obi-Wan and Anakin on their missions together. I never got a sense that they were friends, that they were brothers, so to speak, because all they ever did was arguing with each other. And sure, you could say, well, oh, it's like just like brotherly arguing, but you probably should show them as friends before showing them as brotherly arguing. The only part where you see them as friends are when they're chasing the bounty hunter with the space carts and all of that. And there you get a different side of Anakin. You get the more like the Clone Wars side of Anakin, where he's fun, where he's a bit like, you know, daring and doing stuff that Obi-Wan doesn't want him to do and everything, and that's fun to watch. But besides that sequence, Anakin is he's very whiny. He has this awkward, like creepy almost crush on Padme, thanks to the writing and thanks to the directing. It's really making Hayden Christensen not look very good. I'm not gonna say that Hayden Christensen is a bad actor as Anakin, because he's not. He's literally doing what he's being told to do. You've all seen the Sand People sequence when he's trying to save his mom. Fuck, that is a good sequence. You can see the emotion in Anakin, and that's so good. I only wish we got to see more expressions from Anakin, preferably more happy expressions, because I feel like when you have Anakin, you know he's gonna turn to the dark side in the next movie. You should have us as the audience like him. Luckily, again, the Clone Wars television show comes along, and suddenly I love Anakin. Anakin is such a great character in the Clone Wars, and whenever I think of Vader and the fall of Anakin, I instantly think of the Clone Wars version of Anakin instead of Hayden Christensen, because I just never felt that I got to like Anakin, and that's such a misstep, because we as the audience, we should like Anakin. That way we can be even more sadder when he turns to the dark side. Instead, it's all very... yeah. Obi-Wan goes to the water planet Kamino, I think it's called, and he discovers that a Jedi 10 years ago ordered a clone army for the Republic. Now obviously that's the Emperor. I feel like they could have done a bit more with that instead of, again, Obi-Wan coming there and then sitting around and talking. In the prequel trilogy, all of the very important plot points only come when they're sitting and talking. And then of course the gang travels to Geonosis, and that's when we finally meet Count Dooku. 2/3 into this movie, we meet the villain of this, Count Dooku, who was a Jedi. Wow, that is so interesting. I wish we could have found out more about this guy. Unfortunately, if you read the opening scroll, that's literally all you get to know about this guy. He is now a Sith apprentice to Sidious, Palpatine. I wanted to know him more. He left the Jedi Order because he felt like they've changed. That's basically what Anakin feels like in episode 3, plus the whole Padme thing. I feel like they could have done more things, draw more similarities. That could have been cool. But yeah, he has an interesting lightsaber fight with Yoda. When I was a kid, obviously I loved Yoda. He was just flipping around and all of that. But now watching the original trilogy and watching this, I do like the idea more of Yoda not having to use the lightsaber, because he is so old and he can just use the Force. I would have liked that more, but sure, you know, flipping around is also fun. Oh, I must also say, I haven't really talked about Padme. Padme in the first 2 movies is great. A Leia type character. She's strong and all of that. And I want to mention Padme because in episode 3, all of that just completely goes away. Let's talk about episode 3. She's now pregnant. And we all know that when a woman is pregnant, she just quits her job and she spends all her time on the balcony combing her hair. That's literally everything Padme got to do in the 3rd movie, sitting around being sad that she's pregnant and, you know, that her husband, you know, can't talk about it. In episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, I felt that the opening sequence, I've already talked about it, I feel like it was a bit muddy. They go in to save Palpatine, the Chancellor, and again, this is the one moment in this movie where we get to see them as allies, as friends, I suppose, as brothers, I guess. Palpatine really wants Anakin to be his apprentice, so much so that he's planned this for several years, you know, trying to be his friend and all that, so that Anakin trusts him even more than the Jedi Order. And honestly, when you see the Jedi Order, I don't blame Anakin for trusting Palpatine. The Jedi are shit. Shit is maybe too harsh of a word, but you know, they're not good. In this entire trilogy, what the Jedi? They're so incompetent, you know? And I get that that's supposed to be a thing, you know? The fact that the Jedi are changing, I mean, that's why Count Dooku left, because the Jedi have been changed. I just wish that we could have seen more of the actual Jedi Order instead of the Jedi Order supposedly in their prime and very overconfident and all of that, so much so that you can't even sense the dark side, like, right next to them. Yeah, no, I just wish we could have seen more of the Jedi Order when they were the peacekeepers, so that we as an audience could be like, oh yeah, Anakin is sort of right. So maybe if they'd divin down a bit more into that, you could have been like, ooh, story. Luckily, again, you can get all of that good old like Clone Wars story when you watch the actual Clone Wars, and thankfully that's canon. So I can actually watch the Clone Wars and be like, so this is all the awesomeness that's happening, you know, because the movies aren't showing it, so it's good that it's here. The scene with Anakin, Mace Windu, and Palpatine, that is genuinely a really good scene. Again, Hayden Christensen, not a bad actor at all. Like, both him and the poor child, Jake Lloyd, you know, both of them got so screwed over by the Star Wars fans. That whole sequence is just so good, and it's, like, so fun for Palpatine to, again, puppestrating everything, making himself look weak and all of that, so he can get the advantage of the situation. And then we have the confliction of Anakin. What have I done? It's because of me now that Mace Windu is dead. And then Anakin probably thinks like, well shit, there's no going back now, Padme is still gonna die, I guess I'll go with you, I'm Darth Vader now. That entire sequence is very good. Unfortunately, 5 minutes later, that all of that's ruined because Anakin, now as Darth Vader, walks in and straight up kills all of the younglings. And I have issues with that. Not the fact that he's killing children. What evil guy doesn't want to do that? Haha. No, it's the fact that there's no progression. Like, Anakin literally went from, what have I done? Oh shit, I'm so let's kill every fucking kid. Wah! It's just like, woo. I guess you could use the excuse of like, well, it's the dark side corrupts, so when you start using the dark side, you want to use more of the dark side, because, you know, Anakin's fucking crazy when when he's on Mustafar. But yeah, Hayden Christensen, not as bad as everyone says. Anakin as a character, again, with a different writer, they could have done something here. They could have made us feel sad about Anakin, because when I was watching the third one, I was just like, yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Anakin has never really been that kind. Anakin has really never been like that nice to people or anything. He's always complaining. Like, it makes sense that he would go to the dark side. And the fact that I think that about one of the main protagonists should indicate that that's a mistake, you know? We should care about Anakin. We should love Anakin as a character. That way we could be all the more like heartbroken when he turns to the dark side. I feel like it was just a missed opportunity there. And then of course Anakin is finally turned into Vader, who makes us no. I don't have a problem with that scream, honestly. Like, of all the issues that these movies have, a no scream from Vader is like the least of my issues. And then of course everything is very conveniently tied to A New Hope and then the end. I haven't really talked about the lightsaber battles. Personally, I liked the lightsaber battles when I was a kid. Nowadays, it's just too flashy. I know a lot of people love the like swooping around, jumping around. Well, and I love the Force jump, don't get me wrong. I would love to see more of the Force in the battles because I love telekinesis and all that. But the lightsaber battles are just too floaty. They're just like, in episode 3, everybody praises that sequence, and don't get me wrong, the choreography of Obi-Wan and Anakin fighting, it's fucking good. You can tell how much they've trained. This though, I find it to be a bit ridiculous, you know. In episode 2, you finally get all of these Jedi in that arena coming to fight, and you're watching them, and they're all terrible. They're all supposed to be Jedi, and they're just like, if you haven't done that, put in your DVD or Blu-ray of episode 2 and fast forward to the sequence when all the Jedi are fighting, and just look at all the background characters. It's fucking hilarious. But yeah, no, my personal favorite of the lightsaber battles are more of the style that they did in Force Awakens, which I know that's going to be controversial because Disney, oh no. But I genuinely like that we got the weightiness back from the original trilogy of the lightsabers. You know, every hit mattered. Of course, the new visual effects of the lightsabers, the fact that the actors are actually holding a light stick so you can see the light, it made everything feel a lot more visceral. In the original trilogy, they're really only fighting with sticks, and then the light, of course, is a visual effects later. It was quite jarring watching Force Awakens. You can see the light from the lightsabers, and it's just, whoa, look at this. And then you watch both the original trilogy and then the prequels, and there is no light coming off the lightsaber, and it looks less in quality because of that. So, you know, I really shouldn't fault, you know, the prequels or what this new movie did like 12 years later. But yeah, and I really liked the lightsaber battle between Rey and Kylo, you know, when they were fighting. I haven't seen episode 8. I know all of you guys have. I hope in episode 8 that they can blend the original trilogy, the heavy fighting of the original trilogy, with the flashy fighting with the prequels. I really love a meld between these two, so we could still get weightiness and cool stuff happening. But yeah, I feel like I got a lot of things off my mind regarding the prequels. A lot of negativity, of course, but do I want them to make the prequel trilogy not canon? Absolutely not. Do I want like a reinterpretation of the prequels? Actually, maybe, but I feel like the time has passed. You know, the time, it's over. It is what it is. And while I don't find the prequel movies like that amazing or that good even, I'm extremely thankful for what they've done with the film industry. There are so much things that would have been delayed or maybe not even happen if these movies hadn't come out. Again, I'm probably only here in Germany because of the prequels, you know? So I have a form of respect for Lucas for at least trying. My only actual negativity is that he should have included more people in the work process, in pre-production and coming up with everything. Because of how new all the technology was in The Phantom Menace, I get that. But in episode 2 and episode 3, he really should have had maybe a different director come in. I don't like creepy Anakin like sending an apple over and then Padme just falling in love with him for some reason. I love the theory that like Anakin unconsciously Is that how you say? I don't know if you say use the Force on Padme to make her fall in love with him. It's definitely not how it is, but I do like that theory. This was an incredibly long video, and I'm really surprised if you watched it this far. If you watched this far, hey, I really would like you to write in the comments saying like, I watched it this far, yeah, I'm badass. If you wanted to listen to me and my negativity. But those were my opinions about the Star Wars prequels. I do actually want to hear your opinions about the Star Wars prequels, especially now that I hear a lot of people actually liking them a lot more than they used to, because the Star Wars prequels used to be the butt of every joke. Now they're not anymore. Now I see a lot of people being like, oh, they're a lot better than Disney Star Wars, which of course that's maybe mostly trolls, but I would really love your opinions about the prequels. Do you agree with what I'm saying about the prequels? Do you have a different opinion? You know, do you like them? Do you not like them? I would really love to hear everything about what you think, and if you have a topic or subject that you want me to share my opinion on next, I would love to hear it in the comments down below. I'm gonna go now though, but I hope you all have a fantastic day, and I love you all, and I'll see you guys whenever I see you guys next, and goodbye.